In a city buried under snow, the remnants of the survivors are hiding from the endless snowfall deep underground. Two people run through the sewer tunnel, but do not have time to escape. They are overtaken by unknown pursuers. In the future, people have learned to build towers to control the weather. One day, there was an abnormally heavy snowfall, which did not stop. The surface of the earth is frozen, and the towers are out of order. Now the survivors are hiding from the cold in underground bunkers, which eventually run out of food, and a flu epidemic is raging. But what's even scarier is that people can't trust each other. Sam is a mechanic in Colony number 7, while he is repairing ventilation on the surface. Before his eyes, one of the residents of the bunker, Mason, expels a man named Hal into the cold because he has a cold. After being quarantined and taking medication, he has not gotten better, and he is putting the entire colony at risk of a mass epidemic. Hal asks to let him go, as he has the right to choose. Sam stands up for the sick man. However, Mason shoots Hal in the back with a shotgun while he is running. Unlike most other colonies, the settlement where Sam lives has stocks of plant seeds, which are grown in small quantities in artificial greenhouses. But it's still not enough, and they have to cut rations to somehow survive. Sam, stunned and outraged by the murder of Hal, tells about Mason's act to Briggs, the leader of Colony 7. Briggs established rules according to which seriously ill people are given a choice: to die from a bullet or voluntarily leave the colony so as not to infect others. In the latter case, they are forced to wander in the snow until the onset of natural death. Radio technician Cooper receives a distress signal from the nearest colony number 5. Briggs asks to announce a general meeting to everyone. Briggs reprimands Mason for his arbitrariness. Mason knows from experience that people who are driven away and sick always come back and beg to be let back in, so he solves the problem radically. As a result, they fail to come to an understanding. Sam comes to his girlfriend Kai for animal feed. At the moment when she is looking for information about working weather towers, she assumes that somewhere in distant Spain there is working equipment that can be used to change the weather. Kai believes that this can be a salvation for everyone and wants to go on an expedition there. Sam is skeptical, but is willing to follow her out of affection. All the inhabitants of the colony gather at a meeting. Senior mechanic Dexter is afraid for his wife, Elena, who has the first symptoms of a cold. He asks her not to give herself away. Later, Briggs comes out to the people. Along the way, he is robbed by a little boy, Rowan, a local pickpocket. But Briggs notices this and asks the boy to return his lighter. Briggs addresses everyone with the news of a distress signal from Colony 5. He needs 2 volunteers to go scouting with him. Mason speaks out against the idea, since the inhabitants of Colony 7 are in distress themselves, and it's worth taking care of yourself. He has his followers who support him. Briggs asks Dexter to go with him, as they may need a mechanic, but Sam wants to go instead. They are also joined by young Graydon, who at first is not let go by his parents, but the young man convinces that he will cope. During his absence, Briggs appoints Kai in charge, but Mason is unhappy with this. At the end of the meeting, Dexter's wife starts coughing. The surrounding people hurriedly leave the hall, wearing respirators or covering their faces with collars. Elena and Dexter are sent to quarantine, locking them in an isolated cell. Briggs says not to make any decisions concerning patients until he returns. Mason is categorically unhappy that he has to obey Kai, but for now, he agrees out of respect for Briggs. Sam is tormented by nightmares in which he finds his dead mother covered in snow as a very young boy. He tells his girlfriend about the dream. Kai convinces him that he is not to blame for the death of loved ones. Briggs, Sam, and Graydon go on an expedition to Colony 5. On the way in the deserted city, they find a giant weather tower completely covered with ice. Graydon wonders if she can work, but Briggs believes she is no longer working. The group passes through a dilapidated bridge. After crossing a wide gap in the structure, at the other end of the bridge they find a van with a dead family. After that, the team stops for the night in an abandoned rescue helicopter. Briggs gets in touch with Colony 7, reporting his location. Cooper reports that Dexter and Elena are in quarantine, and they are getting worse. Briggs tells Graydon that he found Sam somewhere in these areas when he was a boy. Sam told his story. When the snow began to fall, at first his family took refuge in the mine. At that time, the food ran out, the father went to the city for help and did not return. Then Sam convinced his mother and sister to come to the surface in search of another shelter. As a result, he lost them in a snowstorm, and Sam himself was saved by Briggs. In the morning, Sam, Briggs, and Graydon reach Colony 5. At the entrance to the ventilation shaft, they see pools of blood. Down in the bunker, the group discovers that all the people have disappeared somewhere. There is only blood and traces of a struggle everywhere. Fearing that someone will attack them, Briggs gives Graydon a revolver for self-defense. After Sam breaks down the door to one of the open rooms, they find a frightened man named Leyland. He shows a video message from a group of people who reconstructed the tower somewhere relatively nearby. Those people were able to clear the sky of clouds by opening the sun. They have fertile soil, but unfortunately they have nothing to grow on it. Geographical coordinates are given at the end of the message. Leyland said that Colony 5 sent an expedition to the source from which the message came, but nothing was found at the coordinates. On the way back, they brought unknown killers with them. Therefore, the colony is empty and there are no survivors. Briggs offers Leyland to go with him to Colony 7, but he flatly refuses to leave his shelter. He is afraid of strangers who have destroyed everyone in the bunker. Briggs searches the shelter and takes the explosives with him. Leyland locks himself in the shelter, and the group inspects the other premises of the colony. By screams and suspicious sounds, they find a pack of cannibals. Feral but still outwardly similar to humans, they kill people for subsequent cooking. There are piles of bodies everywhere. The savages begin to chase Briggs and his companions and kill Graydon along the way. While Sam is climbing the stairs, Briggs blocks the passage outside and then climbs himself. Despite the fact that there are still people below, Briggs throws explosives into the mine. The mine collapses from the explosion, blocking the main exit from the bunker. Briggs and Sam are walking back home. At night, in order not to freeze, they again stay in an abandoned helicopter. At a rest stop, Sam asks Briggs why the savages have become like this. Briggs tells how he used to serve with Mason. When food ran out during rescue missions in one of the camps, those who had weapons started killing unarmed people because of hunger. In desperation, people began to behave like animals. Briggs and Mason tried to interfere, but then they left and organized their colony in the hope that they would never have such a thing happen again. Sam and Briggs discuss the video message they saw in the abandoned colony. If there really is a sun somewhere, then they will be able to grow plants there. In the morning, Sam sees, through binoculars, an approaching squad of cannibals who got out of the mine and found them on the tracks in the snow. Briggs offers to go ahead and detain the savages on the dilapidated bridge. Together with Sam, he jumps over the abyss and leaves explosives with a lit fuse on the edge of the bridge. Suddenly, the wick goes out from the wind, and the cannibals have already got close enough. Briggs is forced to return to light the fuse again, but Sam does not let him in. Briggs stuns Sam and runs to set the explosives on fire. He manages to set fire to dynamite, but is attacked by savages. Briggs does not have time to free himself and explodes along with part of the pursuers. The middle of the bridge is collapsing. However, at the other end of the bridge, there remains a part of the enemies, led by their leader. Sam returns home alone. Meanwhile, a coup is taking place in Colony 7. Mason disobeys Briggs's orders and disobeys Kai. He brings Elena and Dexter to the surface. Dexter begs for mercy and protects his wife, but Mason shoots Elena in the head. Kai comes to the surface and intervenes in what is happening. She pulls out her gun and orders Mason to stop. At this time, Sam approaches the settlement and asks for help, and Dexter, taking advantage of the confusion, runs away. Kai comes to Sam's aid, but the next moment she is stunned by Mason. At the shelter, Sam wakes up and tells about the death of Graydon and Briggs, but Mason decides to handcuff Sam to the bunk. He announces a change of leadership and new conditions of survival. Food rations are halved in the colony, and all patients will be eliminated immediately. Mason is supported by his followers, and he has access to weapons, so he manages to intimidate the people. Sam tells about a group of cannibals who killed all the inhabitants in Colony 5 for food and warns that they are coming to them. Sam urges people to get out of the colony as soon as possible and head to the place he heard about in the video message. Mason does not listen to him and leaves him alone in the room, colliding with a small boy when leaving. The boy waits for everyone to leave the room and hands Sam the keys to the handcuffs stolen from Mason. Mason, along with his assistant Victor, rises to the surface and, with the help of binoculars, they inspect the area. Then they go down to the bunker and study the recordings from all the surveillance cameras. So far, they don't see any threat, and Mason considers Sam's words a lie. At this time, Sam finds and frees Kai. He shows the girl from satellite images a place over which there is no cyclone and a clear sky. Sam collects plant seeds in a backpack and offers to collect all the inhabitants to leave Colony 7. Sam and Kai are blocked by an armed Mason and his partners. While Mason is proving his superiority and threatening Sam, they hear someone outside breaking into the entrance hatch. Everyone runs to the monitors, and on the recordings from the cameras, they see a squad of savages who have already killed Dexter, who remained on the surface. Mason understands the seriousness of the threat and decides to temporarily team up with Sam, Kai, and others. He orders to distribute weapons to everyone who can shoot. Cooper takes the woman and children deep into the shelter, while the armed inhabitants of the colony are waiting for a breakthrough from the main hatch. Savages suddenly begin to appear from the ventilation pipes and kill everyone in their path. While some residents of the colony are trying to restrain the onslaught of cannibals at the cost of their lives, Mason, Sam, and Kai flee to the shelter. Mason closes the door in the face of Sam and Kai, but a girl named Nora stuns Mason and lets them in. The doors can be blocked for a while. Sam offers to leave the colony and takes with him almost all the survivors. Mason is left alone, believing that the others will freeze outside. As a result, Sam leaves Mason a gun for self-defense. Savages break through the doors. To detain the enemies, Mason shoots at a fuel tank next to him, but at the last moment, the leader of the cannibals manages to jump into the ventilation and catch up with Sam. A struggle ensues between them, and they fall out of the ventilation into the greenhouse. Sam kills the leader and gets out of the bunker, but on the way, he sees a fire engulfing his entire house. Then he takes the backpack with the seeds. The film ends with an open ending. Sam leads the survivors through the snowy desert to the thaw, where, according to the video message, the weather tower was repaired. Thanks for watching.